In 2020, there is only one place we all want to be. And if you are a producer interested in deep and progressive house, you want to be actually here. But no worries, today I have 3 shortcuts to get you and your music right on the stage. First, a deep groove. Secondly, a long ambient break. And thirdly, a Lagom drop. So today we will go through all these 3 different things. So hop in. So let's start with the deep group first. I think this is really important. So I have a sample like this, deep and long kick. And let's look for the 4 bar. I'm gonna get the hi-hats right afterwards because I think this is a technique that used a lot in deep house and progressive house. And it's quite simple, but it's almost overutilized. So let me show you. The first thing that we have to do is I get a regular 909 hi-hat sample. This is a classic, and when you hear it, you all immediately remember. What happens though, this hi-hat often layered with other things in the track. Oftentimes this type of samples has a really long tail, so you don't need to exaggerate the reverb. So if I just take the beginning of the sample and shorten the tail a little bit, sounds like this. So it's a perfect layer for sitting on the bottom of your hi-hats. And once you get that, you need to get another sample to fill up this initial hit. So you would like to have something a bit more aggressive, a bit more clicky. So I have this sample, sounds like this. Much shorter than the original hi-hat sample that we had, but it's much clickier than it is together. Also, other thing here is that this sample right here is actually a bit on the left side, so it's kind of working together nicely because of that as well. And to make this sound even yours, you can also layer it with a kind of a bit more noisy shaker, and it really turns on to this really heavy distorted sound. So let's put a shaker sample on under this one. If I play my sample now, sounds like this. So it's quite contrasted the original 909 sample because this one is really bright and this one is really darker than what that is. And all together. And let's just copy this all around. The other thing you should be doing really is that moving them a little bit around so that not every hit is the same. You can also use the group tool, but just let me show you how you can do it manually. You can move it a little bit here, maybe move it like this. So every hit is slightly different. So I'm not gonna do it now, but you can definitely do it. Once we have this one, I'm gonna group this up and call it hats. And all together sounds like this now. Cool and nice, but oftentimes the hi-hat sounds of this genre is really distorted. I like to use overdrive, just Ableton's own overdrive. I think it really adds nicely. And then what you should do is actually, I like to do at least, you can use utility together with overdrive to balance the gain. So if I play now, it will be too loud. Let's decrease drive it. What I'm going to do, bring this down to start with, just to group them up and see the sound level. And here the idea is you can actually decide how bright and how dark your track is. So if I go, for example, overdrive with the left side, so driving the lower bands, it's a really nice effect actually you can utilize when you are, for example, cutting off your hat. So you can first move this one and then filter afterwards to get a little bit different effect. It just kind of glues everything together. And once this one is done, you really need something to make it a bit more playful because people will be dancing to this. What the reference track had and what I like to do is start with the hi-hat percussion. So percussion's on the high end, so it almost sounds like a hi-hat. So I have a sound like this. It's kind of an organic shaker, like a metal shakers more or less. Then you need to pull it around the places that you like to enter. So what I like to do is do it more randomly so that it feels like somebody is doing it. So if we, for example, just take it here and like this and play together. And then maybe we would like to have something like this. This is a bit too repetitive. Probably we should be doing something like this. Can you hear it? Like, this is really nice, and you can actually pan it right and left to make it a bit more interesting. So if you can take this one left, and then for example you can put it, or let's don't do it this way. I actually don't like to automate these ones. You can do it a bit smarter with utility, so that if you want to pan it right or left afterwards, you can do it that way. So if I take this, put it a bit left here, and then put these ones to the left to the right like this, it will be more interesting for our ears. And let me come up with a nice groove here and continue. Now we have this really nice groove. Take a look. It really kind of makes everything a bit more groovier. That's not enough there. We still need more percussions to make this a bit more interesting. So I have just loaded this guy over here. It's kind of slightly organic sounding hi-hat sound, but I'm going to put a fade in so that the sound gets a bit more like a smoother in. So it is not really irritating when we listen to it. Like that. And the velocity is all the way up because we are going to use this velocity. And then let's create something like this. We can make the groove later on, but the idea is basically like think about like a drummer like hits the hi-hats like something like this. So we are going to emulate the same effect. And this is a bit too slow, of course. Let's make it faster. And then maybe we can have something like this. And then maybe something like this. Let's take this off. So again, I will come back and make a bit nicer groove. I want to have this one to illustrate what I'm trying to do. The first thing that I'm going to get is velocity, so that I can randomize the velocity a bit, so the hits will be a little bit different. Let's put a random here, so the velocity will be randomized. And if you open this up, and if you click like this, I'm going to have a slight velocity here as well, so that it's going up. It's a bit ramp. So it's like, so the sound gets higher. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in auto pan. We're going to implement the same idea that we had before. But this time I'm going to go to random, increase the amount and increase the width as well. And then we're going to play with this one so that it's a bit faster. So idea here is basically every hit is a bit panned left and right. You can also do the exact same thing, to be honest, in the control here. And then you can pan to random here, but then you don't have the same controls that you have here. That's the issue. But I want to really control my own parameters and so on. But if you play now, I still want to have a rate so that it still kind of feels like in the groove. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring an EQ. I want to have it really high pitched. And let's fix the groove so that we have something a bit nicer with the others. I just did something like this, very simple really, the same idea. And if we play together now with the track, the groove started to sound more and more like organic than it was before. Again, these high percussions, the human hats, whatever you call them, is just there to make everything a bit more like a drummer plays it. It's not really 100%, you don't want it, you still want to have this electronic vibe, but you still want it a bit difference in each hit. And similar to the hi-hats, we have another super simple trick that overutilized as well, and that is the layering the clap with the snare, and the clap is often 808 or 909. I'm going to use 808, but you can do this with 909 as well. So this is how an 808 clap sounds if you haven't heard it. When the listener hears these sounds, they know it, and it's kind of like a nice thing to hear something that you already know, and then you layer it, there's a twist on that, so that it's something new, and then at the same time it's something different. So it's really easy to trick listeners. But I'm going to do again the same idea with like the clap. We would like to have this or flush sound at the end of the clap, like this part. But initial hit here, we're going to layer it with the snare, so it will be kind of a snare hit. So let's put a snare here now. Most of the samples that I'm using here, either like a classic or coming from my sample pack, so you can find it on the description of the video if you are interested. And the snare sounds like this. You can see that it's really not that big snare, and it's really perfect for like layering these two together. You can definitely hear this initial hit, and then the clap comes in. And if we play together, snare just fills it in, and you just need to really play with the volumes, and That's all you need to do, because you can, again, you see that when this one is loud, this one is not, and this one is loud, this one is not, so that they blend nicely together. And one final thing that I like to do, like we did before, is just laying another one, just to give a bit color to everything and smooth this out as well. And I have something like this. It's kind of in between sound as well, and all together sounds like this. Quite rich, and here you can play around a lot, so you can change these two and make it yours. You can, for example, make it less clicky if you take this off, or more clicky. It really, when you have this type of things, it's really easy to also mix in the track, because like there are different layers doing different things, that you can focus on the things that you are missing. What I like to do still is that, though, adding a glue compressor, EQ, and I will definitely clean it up a little bit, like this one, and this one, and this one. So these two, probably I will get this one a bit like a bit off. Something like this. Let's delete this, and let's go here. When I use glue compressor on the snares, the main idea is basically fixing the attack. If I want to have like a more snappy hit, like a more transient hit, then you need to increase the attack so that you let the initial part of the snare pass and then duck it very fast. So let me illustrate you. Like you can hear, it gets really plucky. We almost doesn't hear the clap sound, but if you want to squash everything and make it more washy, then you can like bring it down the attack. Now it's like woof, woof, almost like a white noise. So in this case, I'm gonna have that initial attack because we have the snare, but then slightly compress it. Something like this. And then let's cut the super lows. And let's volume this down probably. And let's copy paste everywhere. And now it sounds like this. Really solid background of the track. The thing that is missing now is everything is super dry. So we need to introduce a room reverb to put them inside the same room so that everything sounds a bit more cohesive. So what I'm going to do, go to my room here, make it a bit brighter because we have a lot of hi-hats and shakers and so on. Turn this off, and size, make it smaller, make it shorter, and start sanding things. The first thing that I'm going to sand is the clap. Actually, wait a second. I'm going to sand the clap a bit. Something like this. We're going to come back to the clap because we will forget something that could be useful here. And then let's sand the rail hi-hats here. And maybe we can sand this humanness as well. Yeah, when it comes to claps, I actually want to put the reverb there to glue everything a bit more, because now we have a lot of layer. Something that's very useful as well here is that putting a reverb like this, and it will be a bit longer than it used to be. So dark, long reverb. And afterwards, we're going to use a gate. And then gate will be just cutting off the tail because it's too long at the moment. We are using a long decay time. Now we don't have any decay or any tail. And what we are going to do, increase the release. Now you can hear, it's still big reverb, but it's no tail, so it's really nice, like a simple trick. It's just perfect. Once we got this, there are other things that the original track has, maybe we should take care now, is the cymbals. And there's this nice cymbal, right cymbal, that is utilized a lot in this genre. Plus, there's a twist on that we should be also taking a look at. So let's do that. So I just put the cymbal inside the drum rack. So we have just like a regular pattern. What we can do is just moving this slightly off the grid so that it is not there when the hi-hat sit. It doesn't really matter that much because we will do some other stuff. But anyway, so it sounds like this. It's classic cymbal sound. I called it right, but it's more cymbal than right. But because of that, I'm going to move this around so the sound gets a bit smoother. A bit more, like a bit less transient. We don't want really that. The other thing that I'm going to put the reverb, I'm going to make it really squished, like it's kind of almost a linear sound. Let's take this a bit. just like that. And then what we are going to do is just take a compressor and then we are going to sidechain this to the kick. And this is important. It will make the track pump, I will say. Let's go take the kick and let's sidechain. Cool, right? And the other trick that we are going to use is actually autopan, and this will be hard autopan. And if you don't know how to do that, you just bring this amount, and then let's say we are going to go for the 1.4. Let's go here. Now it's sine wave, but that's not what we want. So if you move the shape, you can see that it turned into the square. So now it will be panning like right, left, right, left. And creates this kind of really nice, interesting interaction together with other guys. It's really pumping. And to contrast this one, we are going to utilize a simple trick. I'm going to duplicate this and just change the sample. The thing that we are going to do is this offset button here, we're going to put it to 108 degree. So that when the right is right, let me just write it. When the right is on the right, this one will be on the left. So we are offsetting this to other way around. So if I play this, it's like a dark open hi-hat, this one, and this guy is like more right. So they really contrast to each other and they will move separately as well to balance each other as well. Really cool. And now it's still not deep enough. So there's one single trick that will make everything immediately deep, is adding that deep bass sound or deep sub bass sound, and on top of that adding this reese type of bass or like a growling bass. So it is, and that one is really simple. Really what I'm going to do, put a serum. Let me put the notes so that it's same as the reference track. These are the notes. They are not moving too much. It's like they're trying to be stable because it's a sub bass, you want to have less movement. And let's open up the serum. What you really want to have is that a really deep dark bass sound. And to make it really super simple is that I'm just grabbing a 24 dB filter and we're going to move this down. Just like that. The important thing over here is the compressor. This must be sidechain to kick. And this must be also look ahead so that it stops or it ducks before the kick hits. And together. Simple. And the second thing, I'm going to duplicate this now, and we're going to create a reese bass. And I don't want to call it reese bass. Really, it's not really 100% reese bass. So the first thing that we're going to do here, activate the Bodo sliders, and I'm going to go for analog basic mini and get this shape over here on the Bodo sliders. And we're going to go to global, and this width we're going to bring this down. So this sound will be always mono, whatever we do here, and it's important because if you want to be sure that your bass is mono compatible, this is the simplest way to do it. But not all the artists do that, and you don't need to do this every time. But in this case, in this reference track, it was this way, so I want to show you as well. But we're going to go bananas with unison now. So let's try. Oops, let's solo this. And then both goes into the filter. And let's maybe open this up and play. Maybe we can even do something like this, activate all of them. I don't think we will need this really. And then we go here, put a bit distortion. The chorus part, don't use it. What I'm going to do, put a compressor. And that's it. You can maybe open up a bit more. Again, I'm saying opening up, but this is a mono sound, so it just gets a bit more phasey, a bit like a weirder. I'm gonna give a bit, maybe slightly attack and decay. Maybe something like this is even better. So we have to try this one actually together with the track to understand how deep the sound itself is. So let's go for the EQ8. What I'm going to do is just cut a bit here. We have sub bass already. This looks fine. Let's play together with the track. Let me just copy everything here so that we have a full bar to understand if everything sounds good. Let me try this one as well. Yeah, sounds cool, right? We can also duck this a bit less, this one, because we already ducking the sub bass crazy. What I'm going to do, put everything into a group. I'm going to call it low end. I like to treat my low end all together. And I'm going to put a glue compressor to keep everything a bit tighter. And I'm going to put a EQ, channel EQ. I like to give a bit boost here. Here we go, our Anjunadeep groove is ready. And the next one will be the break. And for the break, we first need to do the actual pet sound and the plug sound, because these two utilized a lot in the break, and then the rest is just adding a lot of effects. So let's do that thing first. So this is how chord progression look like. I just took from the original track, really. Let's bring in Surin first. So we are aiming for this kind of old school, vintage supersaw pad sound. So to get that, what I like to do, if you go to digital here, and then I think this is a dirty bass. Here we have this like a merging supersaw shapes. So what I like to do, let's take two of these, put them like that, and let's put a filter and play and see how it sounds. At the moment, it doesn't, of course, sound like a supersaw. We're gonna do unison, take both of them, and play more. We need to fix the attack, so a long attack, so it's more paddy, and then put a bit decay, and then bring the sustain a bit, and give it a long release. And I'm gonna smooth them up so everything is a bit more smoother in the. This is really a trill sound. It's super easy to get. You just need to use the right oscillators and understand how this one works. The thing that you can do, you can actually utilize this LFOs on the wavetable position, so that this is a bit too fast. Let's so we get a bit movement to sound. We can put the same LFO slightly on the cutoff. It should be really small, this one. And then let's get a chorus, and this distortion doesn't need it really, and reverb is important. We want a big reverb on this. And I'm gonna give it a slight boost on the high end here. And then we are gonna get a sidechain compression. Let's just grab it from the low end and make it red. Let's put it here. It just gives the track this ambience feel. And if I turn this up, really simple. And then you can also pan them around actually. Let's put the auto pan. I think it was the same in the original track. And of course an EQ. Really nice and beautiful. And the one that I was mentioning, there is a let's say classic preset in Massive. Massive X sounds really same, so I'm gonna take a Massive X for that. we will turn this off, and I'm gonna just go straight ahead that presets. Probably the people who used the Massive previously know already what I'm talking about. Let's go to pads, synth pad, and I think it is Deep Blue. Yeah, this one. So let me play you. You will let me see if you can remember. And then in Massive, this is the filter, but we are gonna use they have also already knobbed it here, so we can play it here. Really washy sound, and passes really nice to this track as well. And the rest we fixed already, so we don't need to do anything. I think I'm gonna volume down a bit as well. So let's play. And this is really perfect ambience, I would say. And then we had a pluck sound on top of that. It's like a whammy sound. If you ever played guitar, you know what I mean. Whammy is just resonant fast envelope on your sound, I would say. So let's do that. Let's use a serum. As I mentioned, the guitar sound means that there are a lot of sine waves and a lot of distortion. So there is this wavetable here with exactly like that. So if you move the table around, it gets a bit more like a square sine wave stuff. It's not square, the sawtooth sine wave is basically sine FM into the sawtooth. But this has a really nice character. So if I play it, let me solo it. It almost sounds like distortion with that guitar pedal, which is exactly what we are looking for at this moment. So the notes looks like this. And what we are going to do, I'm going to get one more equalizer like this and put a filter and give a lot of resonance. And that means that we need to fix the envelope now. The first thing is the volume envelope. So we will have this pluckier sound. And we're going to make another faster envelope. And this one will be on top of the cutoff. Shift, Alt, click, so that is one-sided. This really whammy sound. What I'm going to do is put a distortion. I'm going to go for this X shaper. And then we are going to take a compression, multiband, so that we can derive that mids a bit more. And then we're going to add a big reverb hole on top of that. Just like that. I'm going to bring an EQ here, then I'm going to get a glue compressor just to make everything a bit like a sit together. I'm interested more in those high end and maybe cut off the super highs as well. And together with the track, it doesn't make sense because this one is actually using the break. So now we are playing everything together, it will sound a bit weird, but you understand very soon how it's used. And that's more or less the main sounds of the track. So the rest, the break, is more or less adding a lot of effects and noises. What I'm going to do, put everything down and then gonna show you one by one and explain everything so that you understand a bit more how the break is made. So let's play the break first so that you can hear how it sounds with the things that we have made. Okay, the most important thing for the break for this track is actually the echo and how you actually use it for the ambience. So the first thing that you should take a look is this feedback knob over here. You see that it's 104% and it's slowly looping a small area. Means that it feeds it to itself and it creates a positive loop. So it gets just loop itself on and on and on and again. So if you, for example, turn off the pad but send the pad right before the end, it will get this pad sound, make it like a swirling around your head. And I assigned actually a couple of different things to this reverb. So let's take a look in what happens in reality. I have this low pad sound. This is basically the massive X sound that we had together. Take a look, listen. But what happens is right before the end, when I'm playing these big notes, I'm starting to send it to the infinite reverb. So if I play it here, let's play that here. Goes and goes and goes. Gets darker. Still goes. And this is the whole sound or the whole ambience that's coming from. I think this is not the only one. I don't remember what I sent again. I think I sent the plug as well. Yes, here we go. The plug is going there as well. I think this one is a bit. So the whole ambience is created with this one. Ooh. So that is the looping itself part. The other thing that's important here is that I have another high pad, sounds like this. It was the serum patch that we made together. Let me show you with the notes. And the only difference here is that I took a band filter and then move it around a lot. So it creates this kind of really weird moving sound. And I'm using a lot of flangers and phasers to get this really weird, a bit resonant sound all the time. And the plug sound is here, that is used like we mentioned earlier. And the other thing is just really filtering out everything, like everything is slowly filtering out. Let's take a look at for example, the high end. We are going down all the way. The same thing for the clap, and in this case we are using this one. Let me solo this. We are slowly closing up so that we are getting this under the water. And then we have these big effects. The first thing is this ambient noise. This is again from my preset pack. It's just really ambient sounds like this. Just give this kind of ambient sound vibe. And then I have this freeze right. And let me play first. It's a huge right sound. And then I have this cymbals well. And this is basically made by using this right. And if you don't know how you do it, let me quickly explain. You take this guy over here and let me do it on the way so that you can see and hear. Let me put a big reverb on top of here. What you need to do is just make the reverb really huge. Like in this case, let me do like an 8 second, 10 second, doesn't really matter. And make it really wet as well. And then you go for the resample here. And then you just play it and record it at the same time. Here we go. And depending on how you did it, so you will have, like in this case, I probably used a bit less dry wet. So here, this is really very mushed up. So if you decrease the, for example, dry wet, then you will have a bit more shape like this. So this is exactly what I did here. And then I reversed it so that we have this cymbals swell. And here, together, they make more sense. And we should, of course, take that reverb now, again. Just like that. And then on top of that, I have another ambient noise. It's a cymbal again. This one is also made from the same cymbal. Like you can see that I'm really reusing a lot of things from the original track. Really, all the effects are coming from simple things. And this one is taking the reverb, but this time I freeze it and saved it. So this is just freezed version of the same cymbal. And on top of that, a kind of another ambient noise, machine noise. And then on top of that, we had, I think, another white noise just right in the drop, but we are coming to that part. And this is more or less how the ambience is created, really. Nothing else. I see that there's a right here. There's just empty. We can't take that off, really. Yeah. And again, the break is utilizing a lot of effects to create this big ambient sound. And the next one is drop. But before we go into drop, if you like the video up to so far, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It helps a lot. And comment below what you think the next track should be. But let's go to the drop now. So they're using the same effects to build really ambient. So let me play the drop so that you can hear it a bit more. Start the end.
This is for real or something better. How would you like to live?
In the drop part, the difference was here that the original reference track had the same high end, but now we are opening up everything. So let me play that part. So we are coming back from the water underground, and the same thing with the club. And then the super simple snare to roll. And on top of that, right before the end, we have this tom hit. So if I play with the snare, it makes a bit more sense. The trick over here is just utilizing a bit utility so that I'm making the volume increase so it gets a bit bigger while we go right into the break. Yeah, really, like everything in the drop is basically used in bringing everything back to the sound and adding a bit swells and the crashes. Here again, if I show you the noise, and then we are using that reverse cymbals one more. And then on top of that, a white noise. I'm slightly utilizing automation here to give that raise effect, just playing with this filter or the high pass or low pass, and that's it. And we go right into the full chorus mode here, like everything is here, like the beginning of the track, and then putting all these energy hats as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Let me play start to end so that you can hear full track, how it sounds, and meantime, I can actually show you everything one more time. So if you want to really take a look at the specific parameters, you can pause the video and take a look at each parameters and the really MIDIs if you like to. So let's take a look. This is for real or something better. How would you like to live? It always starts with And yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something, and I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.